In particular, once you know the type of material you have, for example, is it an organic, is it an inorganic, is it oligomeric, then there are add-ons, bolt-ons, and more appropriate materials you can use. For example, if the material is volatile, gas chromatography is very good. If the material is solid and insoluble, it's absolutely useless. For oligomers, you can add on things like gel permeation chromatography. For inorganics, X-ray diffraction, you can add on. There's a number of bolt-ons that you can put to the standard package of tests to make it as appropriate as possible for the identity of the material you have. XRD would be one of the first steps. Elemental analysis is another good one. If they're insoluble, I would advise also looking at particle size and shape. In theory, a month. In theory. In practice, 3 months or longer, depending on the difficulty with the actual material. If you commission a good quality package in accordance with the regulations and the guidelines, quality guidelines, you have at least a good starting point. And then if something comes along later, you have a reasonable foundation in which you can satisfy any questions by bolting on additionals. If you start with something that's terrible, you can go nowhere with it. But if you start with good quality and then further justification is needed, you may find you already have the data available, or it's very simple to bolt on. They do not have direct access to the data. They may have to start arranging some of the testing on their own. The suppliers may be of varying abilities to deliver the data. So they may have to start doing much of the work themselves. But also the one main difficulty importers face, they can have multiple suppliers. A large manufacturing company with one single site has usually one source. An importer, on the other hand, could have 5 or 6 different suppliers. So therefore, in those cases, they need to make sure that their single registration, their importer registration, covers all of their sources. So they need to do multiple testing with some coverage, in particular, make sure that the impurities of all of their sources is covered. You can either, in the Euclid system, create multiple substance identity files, or you can create one file which has the range of impurities. For example, you can have 2 different impurities, 0 to X%, and use these in multiple ways to describe the different impurities that you see. The guidance I would give, you must have proof. You must have some kind of backing to the data you're inputting to this system also. So some kind of evidence of the purity and impurity of each of the sources you're bringing from. One of the beauties of complex formulations from a manufacturer's point of view is that they're very difficult to analyze and very difficult to copy. So it's a very difficult aspect to deal with. In these cases, for example, if you find there is a substance in there as an impurity, which component do you assign the impurity to? You don't know where it's come from. And also the level of the material in there could be quite low. So an impurity on a low level of material on part of a formulation is difficult to work with. In those situations, probably the best route is to simply push your suppliers. Push the suppliers for more information so they can push up the chain to their suppliers and give them some clear warning that without an appropriate registration in Europe, there is no business. And it's their interest also to have business in Europe, so they must also comply with your needs.